90% of ICE detainees end up in private facilities. Then there's no reforming immigration detention and all the problems associated without finding out who profits from these private facilities. Private prisons are basically creating a system where human suffering is their business model. I'm Shant Karnikian, joined by Brian Kabateck. This is Civil Action on the Legal AF Network. Are we going back to Florida today, Brian?
Yeah, let's take another trip to Florida. We've been there before. We'll probably be there again, but we're going to start by, there's so much here to talk about, and it's ridiculous and funny and not funny at the same time. So let's start by talking about Alligator Alcatraz. So Alcatraz itself was a notorious prison. It was closed right around the time I was born in the early 1960s in the middle of the San Francisco Bay, which sounds kind of romantic, but of course it's an island. This is Alligator Alcatraz. It has none of the niceties of the San Francisco Bay. It's in the middle of the Everglades. It's surrounded by alligators, pythons, marshy waters. It's probably impossible to escape from. And the Trump administration has entered into an agreement with Governor DeSantis and the state of Florida to take a bunch of land, which could be worth as much as over $100 million, which they're claiming they're going to pay Florida and Miami-Dade County for, although that's a fight ahead, where they're going to set up their tents to put detainees in a runway that's going to be guarded by about 100 Florida National Guard troops. And this is where they're going to move people that are being detained, and then airplanes are going to land and take them out of the country to deport them.
Who's paying for this little project?
Well, this is being paid for by the federal government.
Right.
It's unclear right now whether or not it is going to be run by the private prisons and private operators. It very well may be that's probably in the future. But right now we know that this facility, if you can call it that, is being set up. But what does it sound like to you, Shant?
I mean, to me, it sounds like basically like a concentration camp. I mean, it just sounds awful. And I understand, the far right's position on this is, illegal is illegal, and illegal immigration is breaking of the law, and these people aren't here legally, so they need to be deported. And in the meantime, they have to be in facilities. But like something like this is just a recipe for disaster. It's a recipe for various constitutional violations, Eighth Amendment violations, cruel and unusual punishment. And I mean, but you mentioned these private companies that run these facilities. That's good, right? I'm sure they're privatization is great. Our government's Trump is obsessed with privatizing things. I'm sure they run a tight ship, right?
Nope. Certain things should not be run by private organizations. And one of them is where they're open for human suffering. So yes, this sounds like a concentration camp. Yes, the last time there was something in this country was during the illegal internment of the Japanese during the Second World War. And yes, privatization of prisons and detention camps has become quite the business in the United States, Shant.
Yeah. And I think it creates a lot of problems. Like I said, there's the Eighth Amendment problem, and the Eighth Amendment is a prohibition on cruel and unusual punishment, and it applies to the conditions in which people are confined. Doesn't matter if they're heinous criminals or something like that. This is about basic human rights. This isn't saying that their food needs to be cooked properly or they need lavish facilities. This is just about basic human rights, and it applies to the treatment of detainees. And I believe it applies also to illegal people that are here illegally, people that are going to be deported even.
Well, I'm going to get into that in a second, but I want to share a fun little fact with you, Sean, is that the Attorney General of the United States, Pam Bondi, actually was a lobbyist before she became the Attorney General, working for one of the two largest private prison facilities in the country. She worked for a company called GEO Group. We're going to talk about them. They're pretty fascinating. And she earned $390,000 as a lobbyist for this group. Now, GEO Group, not CEO, but GEO Group, and another company, unrelated company, that exists called Core Civic, were heavy donors. Now, surprise, to the Trump administration. Why do you think they were big donors to the Trump administration and to the Trump election campaign?
Right. Yeah, and we're seeing that, they're going to get big contracts. They'll probably get one from for Alligator Alcatraz. By the way, another question for you, Brian. What is Trump's obsession with Alcatraz? Because he wanted to reopen Alcatraz, which was totally not feasible, not practical.
I don't know what his obsession is because he hates California. So I don't know exactly what his obsession is with Alcatraz. I mean, Alcatraz was a kind of notorious prison. It's now part of the Park Service. You can go there and visit. You can get a pass. You can get a tour. It's in a little island in the middle of the San Francisco Bay. It was impossible to escape. Movies have been made about it. And that seems to be exactly what he wants to design here is this concentration camp location. Lawsuits have already been filed about this. Lawsuits have been filed against these private prison companies.
Isn't some of the money coming from FEMA for this Alligator Alcatraz facility?
I'm glad you asked that, Shant. Yes. Money from FEMA, like in the neighborhood of hundreds of millions of dollars, has been earmarked for these operations, for these detention centers. Now, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong here, but I thought that the Republican agenda was to cut government spending.
No, it's to cut taxes in the big, beautiful bill, but then take money and spend government money on, I guess, facilities like this. Using FEMA money that's allocated, that's supposed to be allocated for emergency relief, for disaster zones, for people that don't know, in case you're living under a rock. FEMA is the Federal Emergency Management Agency, and their mission is to respond to emergencies, not spend their money on Trump's pet project, Trump and Ron DeSantis' pet projects to create concentration camps for immigrants. I mean, it's just wild. Some of the things about the conditions in which the features of this thing is going to be, they're going to be like FEMA tents and FEMA trailers in the middle of a swamp. I mean, this is really sad. I mean, putting all jokes aside and references to concentration camps aside, this is like, they're building like a shanty town, like a third world type of town. Like, I mean, that is sad. That's shameful for a country like this, the beacon of, democracy and human rights, to have basically this, deplorable conditions, just blatant human rights violations. I mean, it's just sad. We should be
Shant, I want to take a few minutes here just to share some information with you and with our viewers about the two largest companies, GEO Group and CoreCivic. So just some fun facts. The last year for which we have statistics was 2023, and GEO in 2023, before the Trump administration came into power, reported $2.4 billion in revenue. They operated in the United States, South Africa, Australia, and the United Kingdom, and they had 99 facilities. But of that $2.4 billion with a B, 43% came from contracts with ICE. Now, one can only imagine that the sky's the limit.
Yeah.
GEO Group is going big and they're going to be making more money. So, they also, interestingly, started as a real estate trust, and they retained their real estate trust identity for a while so that they could reduce their taxes from 36% to 3%. So you can see why they like the Trump administration.
Good business. Yeah. It's smart business. Yeah.
CoreCivic, not as successful. They had a mere $1.9 billion during the same time period, 2023. They operate slightly less facilities. They also have recently been hired to build facilities. They've been sued. All these companies have been sued for horrendous things that take place. I mean, let's face it, Shant. When you put profits over human rights, where you are a for-profit organization, and the more you can cut expenses, the more likely in a situation like this, human rights violations are going to be rampant.
Yeah. Putting profits over things like safety, whether it's in the product manufacturing world or things like that. And we know a lot about this because we're civil litigators and we do consumer protection work. And anytime we see companies, corporations, conglomerates putting profits over people, to use that sort of tagline, it's always a red flag. It's a problem. But to put profits over human rights, or to tie profits with the handling of human rights, I mean, that's just, like I said, it's a recipe for disaster. You get perverse really fucked up incentives. Things like, the longer someone's detained, the more money they make, the more beds they fill. So they're incentivized to try to keep people there longer, to make sure that minimize the costs that they spend on the facilities, on people's care and well-being. Just, maximize those margins, make them as big as possible, make these people live kind of just on the edge of their basic health needs. And there's an accountability gap, I think, because they're private actors. They're shielded from certain constitutional protections. They're shielded from Freedom of Information Act requests. I mean, it's just incredible. Like, I cannot believe that this is something that exists. And look, I'm not saying the Biden administration didn't have anything to do with this. They had it. Biden was trying to phase out. I think there was an executive order for the DOJ to phase out private prisons. Notably, it excluded immigration detention facilities from it. But still, I mean, this is Trump's opportunity to do something good. Yet the opposite is happening, right? He claims he's trying to address an immigration problem. And look what he's doing. He's flooding these facilities and just giving out these contracts. It's just sad. My final thought on this, Shant, is that this is far from over. There's already lawsuits pending, not only against the private entities, but involving this facility in the middle of the Everglades with pythons and alligators. So I think that there is going to be a rude awakening coming down the pike for all of this, and it's going to happen very soon. Yeah. Well, thanks for tuning in. I'm Shant Karnikian. That's Brian Kabateck. This is Civil Action on Legal AF. If you have any feedback for us, we'd love to see it in the comments, and like and subscribe if you like what you're seeing.
Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.